Welcome back, guys, to the Bear and Scully podcast with me, Sean Scullion, aka Scully, Owen Mallon, aka The Bear, Aidan, the face for radio behind the scenes, and today we're joined with Sharon Rocks. Sharon, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Sharon,
Very
thank
welcome.
you very much for coming up. But before we get into this, guys, for you at home, if you have not signed up for our Patreon, what are you missing out on? We are bringing exclusive content over the next few weeks. We are going to be speaking to some of our previous guests. We're going to have Skype calls. We're going to take your questions and we're going to put it to them so you have a direct input in our show. We're also going to have private audiences with yourselves to get a feedback on what you like, what you want to hear, what you want to see from us, and give you a hand in the show. So if you haven't, get on the link, get on the Patreon,
Get it done.
and become one of the BSers.
Right?
Right, Sean, back to business. Thank you very much for coming down here. I know you were slightly nervous. Now, don't be nervous. Sean doesn't bite. I might, but he doesn't. Before we get into it, we always like to hear a bit about our guests. So if you want to give us a wee bit of a background on you and who you are, and then we will get into your story.
My name is Sharon. I come originally from North Belfast. I have 2 girls. I live in Ballycastle now and love it down there. That's all I can say. Living the dream. Living the dream. It's brilliant.
Salt air. See these city slickers? Not many of them leave it, is there?
It's a lovely part of the country.
I love it. Love it.
How long have you been down in Ballycastle now?
I have been down 8 years on the 25th of November.
Well, we're going to go back a wee bit then before you left the Belfast for the greener hills of Ballycastle, and we know now you're loving Ballycastle. But what about we go a bit further back, and we're back in Belfast.
Right. I met my ex-husband when I was 26. We were together 7 years. We got married when I was 33, he was 35.
Where did you meet at?
We met through work colleagues. My friend, she was married to his work colleague, and we all went out drinking together on the Friday.
Was this a wee blind date job, was it?
No.
Or had you a wee...
No, it wasn't nothing like that. It was just out meeting people for drinks and whatever. And because my friend's husband worked with him, it was his company was out and our company was out, so we sort of joined them and some whatever. And it was good crack. So it was good crack.
It's always good crack at the start, isn't it?
It always is. It always is. And then he asked me out, but he was engaged at this time to somebody else.
Did you know that?
Yeah, but he asked me for a kiss because it was his birthday. I went, no, you're engaged. And I went home. That was it. And that was at Christmas because it was his birthday on 22nd December. And then we met again, I think April after that. A few drinks in, asked me out again. I went out with him because he said he wasn't with her anymore. And I says, right, it's grand.
And did you believe that?
Oh, God,
Oh.
aye.
All right, okay.
It was funny. He was, one of these ones to make you laugh.
Oh, I know them ones.
Uh-huh.
He thinks he is one of them boys.
He is, his laugh is.
No, wait there. Now we're tarring with brushes, but go on ahead.
But anyway, so we were together 7 years. I lived in a flat. He lived with his mum. He ended up moving in with me. As I say, we were taking down the Christmas tree on Boxing Day, 2002. And he asked me to marry him.
How long was this into your relationship?
Well, we were together about 7 years.
Oh, it was 7. Oh, okay.
7
But
years.
right, just so I go back, because I'm sorry for doing this, I'd just like to get an idea. And I know sometimes when people's listening, I got the feeling that when you said he was engaged and he was finished with her and you were asked out, that wasn't entirely the full scenario, was it?
We'll have to come back to that bit, you see.
Okay,
We'll
right,
have to come
okay.
back to that,
Okay.
then you'll understand why.
Okay. Right. So you were asked out on Boxing Day. You were asked to be married. He asked you to
He
marry.
asked me to marry him, and I says, well, I will only marry you on one condition, that it's not a long engagement. So we end up getting married in October, 3rd of October, 2003. So we did, and...
You weren't hanging about?
No, I don't hang about. I was 33.
Something tells me if he didn't ask why he's getting the road.
No. It was a shock to me. It was a shock to me, to be honest with you, because I was happy enough us living together and whatever, you know.
And what was that like when you moved in and the honeymoon period and you know?
It was brilliant, but because I was that busy, I worked 2 jobs. I worked in travel agents and I also worked in an off sales. So if I was going from one job and then going to another, you know, because that's all I did was work.
Yeah.
Just to have money to be able to afford things. Things were really expensive, like electricity and whatever. But he moved in with me and it was great. But I couldn't, we have to go back, because for you to understand, I was that busy with my work and whatever. I didn't see things until the penny dropped away later on.
Yeah.
That's where we'll have to go back.
So with hindsight, we see the wisdom. But so you're working away. Was he working away?
He was working his day job, but I was working day and night. So I had 2 jobs. He had 1. So.
Okay.
And you got married, and then was there any wee bobbies shortly after?
Oh, there was.
Were you hanging about for that as well?
I wasn't hanging about. I'm not saying nothing.
Shotgun.
Wasn't. We planned to have our first daughter. We got married in October, and I found out when I was about 6 weeks pregnant in January, February. So we were still living in the flat. So we had to get a house ASAP, because we were in the 2nd floor in a flat, and I wasn't doing it. So we ended up starting looking for houses and whatever, and we bought a lovely wee house, wee 3-bedroom. It's lovely. And we moved into that house in June.
Everything was flying.
Here. So, but I wasn't allowed to lift anything. My family wouldn't allow me to lift because I was pregnant. And it was like your dreams all come true. You know, when you're a kid, like a girl, and I always wanted to grow up, get married, have my own house, have kids, and live happily ever after. It didn't happen like that for me. It was like a nightmare. It really was like a nightmare. So I had, Eva Marie was due on the 25th. Oh, she was due, on the 18th of November. 18th of December. She was born 3.5 weeks premature. She was born on the 25th of November. It was just, they tried to turn her and she came early, and nothing wrong with her or anything. She just came early. And everybody she was that toady. You could walk about with her in your hand. She was gorgeous. She was like, do you know where everybody goes? Oh, isn't she gorgeous? She wasn't. She was a rat. She looked like a rat. Do you know the wrinkle? She was. I swear to God. I know it sounds horrible.
Eva Marie, if you've tuned in to listen to your mum and you're like, oh, I'm so pretty, and the next thing she's called you a rat.
I've told her to her face.
Ugly duckling. She was an ugly duckling.
No, she wasn't. She was all red. She was a wee small thing. She was gorgeous. She was mine.
I love when people go and they look in and they're like, oh, aren't they beautiful? And you be like, you maybe think that of your own, you know, but have you ever looked in and go, oh, fuck. God forgive me.
Well, can I tell you something, Eva Marie, I've said to her face. I said to many people, and they look at me and go, did you really say that? Yeah, I did. So anyway.
So we had Roland.
So we had Eva. She's my baby. She was the best thing to ever happen to us. But going back to when I found out I was pregnant, we moved into the house in June, and my sister lives up in Laganeel, and she hadn't seen the house. So I got a strange phone call to work, and my sister says to me, Sharon, Mary's come down to see your house. Will you give her the guided tour and whatever? And I says, right, okay. So my sister went and rang him and says, right, we're going to do a baby shower for Sharon. and whatever, we're going to meet you and discuss it when you get home. Right. So he rang me and says to me something about a baby shower, and I went, what the hell's going on here? So I came home. Liz and Mary came, and Mary says, show me up in your new house, the tour of the house, and I says, right.
And you're proud as punch. You're
God, of
near
course
home.
I am. And Liz is down the stairs with the husband. And next thing, I comes down the stairs, and Liz or Mary, I can't remember which one, but turned around and said to him, have you got something to tell Sharon? And he goes, no. Are you sure you ain't got nothing to tell Sharon? No. Right, I'm going to ask you one more time. Have you got anything to tell Sharon? No. My sister punched him in the face.
Good woman.
So, and me being pregnant, not knowing what's going on, and I just burst out the tears and I went, what did you hit him for? And it ended up that, so you're not going to tell her? No, he denied. And then Liz said, well, if you don't tell her, I am. So he brought me into the kitchen. And my feet just went under me. He had another child that I was never told about. And it was the same age as me and him were together.
Oh, fuck.
So he was
child 7 years of age? 8 years of age?
I think about 6. He was going, I found out that he was literally going out with his ex and going out with me at the same time.
The whole time?
Not the whole time. She found out she was pregnant. He denied it. He denied the child. And I was so angry, and I just went to him that if anything happens to me or happens to this child that I'm carrying, I'm blaming you and your mother.
Why his mother?
Because when he was living with me in the flat, all the letters were being sent to his mum's address. So I didn't know about it. She knew about it. And before somebody walks up the aisle, you would advise. Nothing about support.
No, what I mean, what letters was that?
There was letters about CSA.
Oh, so
But my thing is that as a woman, she should have advised her son. She told me I was the daughter that she never had.
So you had a close relationship
with his mum.
So
yeah.
you felt betrayed by her too?
I felt betrayed.
Okay.
By the whole lot, because I felt as a woman. And if I was the daughter that she thought that she never had, that's the way she saw me, that she would have advised her son to tell me that he had a child, then not that it would have made any difference, but...
Could have worked it out.
But yeah, if I would have known, I walked into marriage not knowing. Blinded.
What age was this child when you got married?
Oh, she was only a wee kid. She was only a wee, I think she was 5 or 6.
So we had a 5 or 6 year old daughter.
Mm-hmm.
He was getting married to you. And you're complete. And like, I'm going to say, what part of Belfast is he from that you... Because it's a small enough community that...
Oh, he was west.
Right, okay.
I was north.
So you were unaware. And then when this all happened, then where was your head at then?
Well, when I got told in the kitchen by him, and I just said, do you know what? The child's not a dirty thing. The child's a clean thing. I just said, okay, things didn't work out. I was pregnant. My hormones were all over the place.
Was he still denying his child at this point? Or had he any relationship with the child?
No, he never had nothing to do with the child. Still doesn't.
So it wasn't that there's a relationship with this after he found out she was pregnant He didn't continue to see her and see the child. It wasn't that it spanned over that time. Okay, all right.
Not that I was aware of.
No. It's just I wasn't sure if that's
No.
what had happened. Okay.
As far as I could put the pieces together, he was going out with us at the same time. And this girl got pregnant.
Yeah.
She had a daughter. And it went to the school. The same school as my nephew. Up in St. Kevin's. And up in the Falls. But there's good to come out of it. There is good to come out of this.
Well,
There is good to come out of this.
Well, let's move on because it's pretty murky at the minute.
But so
what way was your marriage then at the time?
well, I had to concentrate on the wee baby that was in my belly.
I know, but what I mean, and I'm not, because by no means are we judging, or you're pregnant, you're vulnerable, you moved into your new house, your dreams are everything was perfect until your sister right hooked them in the middle of the kitchen and
Up the living room.
in the living room. But and I don't condone violence, not always. But so obviously they had found out. They come and told you. Did you break up, or what conversation did you have then at that point?
See, to be honest with you, it's all like a big blur in that kitchen. In that, I just wanted my marriage to work, my kid to grow up with a daddy. But it sort of opened my eyes a bit. I only had a certain amount of relationships in one hand. I wasn't an expert. I didn't have loads of relationships. But I just dealt with it as best I could.
Yeah.
It wasn't until cracks appeared. It's strange.
Because when things like that happen, it makes you call into question everything. It changes, maybe not at the time, but as you move on and you were like, well, this could happen.
There was questions well early on.
But are they questions you only realise now and afterwards, but at the time you just dismissed?
I was oblivious to it.
Yeah.
It wasn't until, before we got our house, before we moved into the marital home, when we first got married, it was within the start of it that when he was coming home from work, he was switching off his mobile. Now I was still working 2 jobs, and I was still working 2 jobs and, doing my day job, doing my nighttime job. And
So when he would come in, he would just turn his phone off?
He would have went out with his mates.
Had his behaviour towards you changed?
No. I thought he was just going out for a couple of drinks. He was going, getting a shower, taking his marriage ring off and leaving it in the soap dish in the shower. Wouldn't have come in until 6:30 in the morning. I was pregnant. I told his mummy, there's something not right here. A married man should not be going out and not coming in until all hours, 6:30 the next day. Like, it wasn't right. It didn't feel right. And I see every time I got pregnant, and when I got pregnant, my eyes opened. I don't know what the hell it was, but I could see better. My eyes were wide open. Don't know what it was. And because I wasn't working, or because I wasn't doing 2 jobs, as soon as I married him, a couple of months later, I stopped doing the second job. And then I would have seen the mobile getting switched off. What are you doing that for? Left mine sitting there. Going out drinking. I couldn't go out and drink. I was pregnant. Do you know what I mean? And it just happened from that. I could just, when I get pregnant, I could just see better. That's all I could say. I can't, because I was too busy beforehand to see what was going on.
Did you then have the discussion with him about the going out and not coming home to 6 a.m. in the morning?
Here, fell on deaf ears. He just going out having a wee drink with his mates and whatever. And then when we moved into the marital home, he got a second job. And he went out with Emmons. And again, Rang and rang and rang and rang. See where you are. After a certain time, wasn't answering his phone. And that just alarm bells to me. He's up again. I could just see there was something. My gut instinct was telling me there was something that wasn't wrong. There was something that was wrong. And I just couldn't. I just couldn't believe that there was. Your gut instinct, that's all I can say. I felt there was something not right. And I knew there was something not right. And I told his mummy. No, my son. Yeah, your son.
Well, I'm assuming that you got to the bottom of what wasn't right.
No. When we moved into the house, it's just all in my head here. When we moved into the house, when my two sisters was there was a load of pages and pages of conversations between him and the mother of his child, the wee child that I found out about, and he was telling her how he missed her.
What do you mean pages of conversation? Where was it? Was these letters or what were they?
Hotmail.
All right, so somebody had printed off his email account?
No, she did. She printed off the conversations.
Aye, the mother did?
The mother.
Okay.
Came with all this. She arrived.
It was back in MSN days?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Where you had a history of conversation and you could have printed it out.
Yeah.
But what happened, how they found out about the child was my wee sister lived up the west, 2 streets away. And her son went to St. Kevin's, and this girl arrived at her door and said, "Have you got a sister? It's called blah, 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 blah." And she said, "Yes." Has she recently married so-and-so? Yep. Well, I'm here. I have his daughter. So my wee sister, rang the sensible sister. There's 9 of us, by the way. So that's why there's not many sisters and brothers. So she had rang my other sister and said, "Liz, I've just got this girl arrived at my door and said to me that he has a child." And Liz says, "Right, I'll be over now." Liz couldn't drive. She got a taxi over. Went straight over. And she asked the girl a few questions. And the girl told her, give her the printouts of the conversations. He was meeting her on his lunch. Now, nothing was going on.
But he was meeting her,
Yep.
telling her he missed her. What level of conversation would they have when you say nothing's going on, but he didn't see his daughter?
Well, that's exactly what the girl went and told my sister. There's nothing going on here. We're not in a relationship. Nothing. But they were having conversations. They met up a few times because she worked somewhere close by where he worked in university. I don't know. I'm just saying what I've heard or whatever. But then the conversation. So he was in his work, on his work internet, having conversations. I'm pregnant, waiting on him.
Was this for your second child or your first child?
My first child.
Okay.
I'm starting, waiting for him because I worked up in the Lisbon Road, so I had to get a bus into town. He was behind the Black Man Tech in his office. And then I was starting.
Can I ask you a question? Is that completely PC to say Black Man Tech?
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Well, that's what it was known as. It's known as something else. It's housing or something. It's not student accommodation or something now.
It's just as long as it's not just black men in the tech.
No,
that's
Black
okay.
Man Tech.
All right, okay.
That's what you called it.
Okay, no problem.
So I was starting there when I was pregnant, and I didn't realise this. He was on the internet, talking to her, other women. It wasn't just her.
But obviously at this time you weren't aware of other women. But this was the bombshell that the grenade your sister had come round and it must have been hard for them. You're pregnant, you're in a new home, you're coming down proud as punch and talking about baby showers, and she knows she's about to deliver a massive flow. What way was your relationship with her immediately after she had dropped this grenade?
Well, they did it out of love. Fine. They did it to protect me. So
Just sometimes what happens when people want to believe something else,
it backfires.
they push away the person that the
Shoot the messenger.
yeah.
No, not my family.
Okay. No, I
Not
want,
my family. No. So that's where I found out in the letters and whatever. But for me to move on in our marriage, I had to destroy. I had that in writing. And it was so...
And did he deny it, or did he own up, or?
No, he owned up. He owned up about the child.
Well, when we say he owned up, like he's only
Well-
after getting punched in the face and someone standing with a book of stuff that they're about to say. So it was push or jump.
Well, he had to. He had to. And I just sort of thought, for the sake of my child and whatever, that I wanted to make it work. And I just sort of thought, you give somebody a chance. That's it. I wanted to give him a chance to prove himself. But when I had my first daughter, everybody knew, my family knew what went on, what happened and whatever. Couldn't stick him. When I went in labour, I say I was 3.5 weeks early, and I was in labour and whatever, had Aoife Marie, and next thing everybody was coming up to see her and whatever and all this here. And my sister-in-law said to his mummy, "Is this your first granddaughter?" "Yeah, it is." Wasn't. Denied. That one. Denied. Another one.
Whoa, wait a minute.
So there was another child
Not
as well?
him. Not him. His brother had a wee girl, but they were part of the wee girl's life for a certain length of time, and then once the girl and her son split up, there was no contact. So she had 2 granddaughters.
And she knew this at this point.
Oh yeah. And my sister-in-law sat there and went, and everybody else sat there and go, "How can you sit there and deny your 2 granddaughters? Like, we're not you like it or not. These are your granddaughters and you're denying them." My Eve Marie was the first granddaughter. And I'm looking, and this wee thing is so delicate. This wee thing was just there on me, and I just wanted to protect her and whatever. And when he left the hospital, went home, and I said to my mummy, "Would you look after him? Would you make sure he eats? Would you make sure?"
And did your mum know at this point, or did your sisters not tell your mum?
I can't. No, my mummy did. My mummy did know. But they put things aside for the child and me and whatever, and it was like a slate clean. But we had a computer in the house, and it was nothing to do with me. It wasn't my idea. I didn't have enough time to go on a computer. He went and got his mate to put it all together, because this guy was a real smart cookie, and he put this modem, it was like the big block bits, the big modem things, and so he put this thing together. So little did I know, he's up all night drinking, chatting away.
There are women. So, how did this? So you're home with your first baby. He's now up at night. How did this? What sort of pattern came about then?
Well, I put her to bed.
What was life like? But when you decided to give it a go, in your mind, was it working? Was it?
To me, it was working.
You had your baby home. You're in your new house.
I have the wee baby in my belly. Can't wait until she's out or she's born and whatever. It was all I ever dreamed of. It was all I ever dreamed of. All I ever wanted was the marriage, the house, the marriage, family. That's all I ever wanted. And, I was 33 when I got married. I was old. I thought I was older, and I used to go on holidays once a year when I was younger. When I was working, I worked in a travel agents, and when I went away once a year, 2 weeks, got drunk, come home, work till the next year. That's all I did. I didn't go out across the door. I didn't go out across the door before I met him. You know what I mean? I went once a week, the Friday in a pub, or once every blue moon. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't a big clubby person or whatever. Sat in the house. My mum always says, when are you going to go out, wee girl? It's not good for you. You need to get out of your room and whatever. Then when I met him, I was constantly out in the pub. Then she's like, you're never in, wee girl. Do you know what I mean? That's the way it was. But when I had Eva Marie, just things concentrated on her. I had a C-section. I was told I wasn't allowed to hoover, wash, iron, ironing and washing. Wasn't allowed to do any. Midwife came out. I was standing there doing a pile of ironing. Sharon, what are you doing? Well, if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. You know what I mean? So that was just it. But one night I went to bed, and she was at the bottom of our bed in her mosies, and I done something. Do you know when you have the wee monitors for listening? I put one downstairs and the listening one upstairs, so I could hear what was going on downstairs.
So you had an idea that something was right.
There was something. And
I don't mean to be facetious when I say this. There was a lot of red flags, and the things you described, and you're like, oh, there's something we got, but there was actually a lot more was happening. But when you want something so bad, and it'll be easy for people listening to judge in the fact that when you were saying, oh, the ring was coming off or the phone was going off, there's like massive alarm bells going off in my head. There's definitely something. But it's easy for people to judge. When you want something so bad and you want to believe things, you can nearly eradicate anything. And it's only now we talk to so many people when they're telling a story and they're pointing out things but it wasn't obvious at the time. None of this was obvious at the time, but obviously to the point now, you've your baby, you're home, you're still not sure. So you've obviously set this up to see. And what did you hear then when you were?
Well, he was up really late and I was really, really knackered, but I just sort of thought, all I could hear was with a keyboard. And I just went, what the hell? But there was a creaky stir. You always get that creaky stir going downstairs. And I bypassed it, stepped over it, went down. Well, if somebody wasn't shifty, somebody moved that quick, was at the computer, webcam going, couldn't see what was going on the other side of it. Don't know what was going on. Could have been innocent, but it wasn't, because if you seen somebody shift so quick, and the flusterness and I just went, what's going on? And it was just, I knew that there wasn't something right, but I don't know what it was. But to say, it scared the living lights out of him. He didn't hear me.
There is a part of this where I'm like, how many things have happened that, now we're talking about them and now they're a thing, but at the time what age was Eva Marie at this time?
Eva Marie was only a couple of months old.
She was a couple of months. So you had known about her and you were back and your baby home. Was he all happy with her and Karen and
Yes, he was. But the only thing is that when I had to go back to work after 3 months, I couldn't afford to take 9 months off. So I went back to work after 3 months, and I didn't go back to my originally full-time job. I applied for a part-time job in the second job that I did, which was only around the corner from where we lived. So it was handy. So I just done 16 hours.
Yeah.
But we needed to get back
Yeah.
We couldn't afford not to work.
Yeah.
Because we had to upgrade our car. We had to upgrade the car. We had to. It's
Get
just
a mortgage,
the bills that was coming in.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because electricity, it was winter. You use more electricity and oil in the winter. So we had a big bill after 3 months, and I went, have to get back to work, you know, and whatever.
It's early. You've had a C-section too, so like
Mm-hmm.
you're not long recovered. So, when you returned to work, then who was looking after Aoife Marie when you were?
My mum.
Okay.
My mum. So she was looking after, and there was a childminder as well.
Okay.
His mummy would have taken her every Friday. She would have taken her she wanted to take her into the town, and she doted on her she doted on Aoife Marie. She doted on her. You know, she was brilliant. So she was, every Friday she took her without fail. So they have a really, really good bond, because she's been part of Aoife Marie's life from the day dot.
Yeah.
You know, and that was it. But then after I had Aoife Marie and whatever, and then what happened?
You caught him down at the computer.
Uh-huh.
Did you confront him at this time about that?
He was that shifty. Look, he was in shock that I got in. He didn't have any. I said, what are you doing? But it was sort of blowing up. No, nothing, because I couldn't see. It was that quick. The ex and whatever. I didn't see anything or who or what, any conversations. Couldn't tell. But then I just decided there was something happened. Oh, we went to marriage after Aoife Marie. Things weren't, the betrayal was there. I went back to work we had doormen where I worked, because staff were stealing, customers were stealing. And he, good advice, just sort of said to me, Sharon, told him what happened, whatever. Said to me, Sharon, do you want the trusts gone? You don't. He says, it happened to me. And whatever. And I went, right, okay. But I says, I have to make it work. So me and him went on marriage counselling. We went to marriage counselling. And it seemed to be, it wasn't working. He was sitting there. He wasn't telling. I wasn't getting any answers. But this guy wasn't there to get answers. He was there just for us to communicate. Well, Aoife Marie, I fell pregnant again. But Aoife Marie, it was on down. I was that busy with Aoife Marie whenever she was a baby and getting her up and whatever. But I started realising it's not going to work. But we done marriage counselling. I found out I was pregnant with my second daughter. But I planned her. I knew it wasn't working. But I planned her. And people can criticise me for that. Everybody has their own way in doing things. There's no right or wrong way in doing. I will not judge anybody. It's just my way that I wanted it. I wanted 2 kids with the same daddy. I didn't want to have 2 kids with 2 different dads. That's just my thing. There's no right or wrong way. And I knew, and I planned her. And once I got pregnant, I knew I've got what I want. I didn't want him anymore. But I did try. I was 7 months pregnant with Eve. And I was being sick during the night. They say that it's whenever you're going into labour, like sort of thing, it's another sign. But I was 7 months pregnant, being sick constantly. And as I say, he was going out drinking and not coming in, not answering his phone, whatever. I had a baby. And I had a baby in my belly. He was out with his work colleagues one night. He never answered his phone. I rang one of his other mates. He didn't answer his phone either. I rang somebody else. He answered the phone. And I says, where is he? I don't know. I'll try and find him. I says, right, when you do, can you tell him to come home? Never rang me back. But I knew he was up to no good. He was up to no good. I found out later on. So I was 7 months pregnant with my second daughter. I was up during the night being sick. Mobile was sitting on top of the fireplace. Switched it on. Beep, 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 beep.
His mobile?
Mm-hmm.
But you were ringing it?
No.
All right.
I switched it on.
All right.
His mobile, it was sitting on top of the fireplace.
But I thought you said you were ringing him. Couldn't get
No,
him.
this here was when these were different things that was happening.
Okay.
When I was pregnant, when I was different. The penny. So when I look back, it was warning signs. But I was that oblivious and didn't want this message come through from this girl. And it was dirty. It was a dirty sex text from her. And I just went, what the
What did it say?
I'm
like, I don't know why my head's going. I'm like, what is it?
Stop. Right, we get the idea. It's very graphic in nature.
Well, she just missed the feel of his and the rest.
Oh, but right. Well, that's different because what I was going to say there is, so the message alluded to that they had been intimate, and that's me trying to be PC, and it's very rare PC, but okay.
So my hormones were all over the place and whatever, and I couldn't believe the shock of this text. And so I rang her. This was about 4 o'clock in the morning. And I rang her. And I said, love, what are you doing ringing my husband? Who's your husband? And I said his name. And she said, he told me you were separated. And I says, love, will I tell you something? We have a 21-month-year-old daughter. And I'm about to have another one in 2 months' time. I'm 7 months pregnant. Oh, I didn't know. He told me you were separated. Didn't mention nothing about your kids. Nothing. And I went, right. I says, will I tell you something, love? I've got your number here. I says, see if you don't tell me the truth. Here's me. I'm going to name and shame you in my divorce. And I says, have you had sex with my husband? I said, yes. Where? In his car. I said, you what? First of all, I asked her, did she come to my house? And she says, no. I says, where did you have sex? In his car. And I went, what? So where they had sex, she told me that too, in his car, and whereabouts. He was dropping out in his lunch break, meeting women on the internet, screwing them in his car at lunch on his lunchtime and heading back to work. When he was picking me up from work or whatever, I would have said, this seat's sitting really funny. He was sitting in your car. He was at it in the car and I didn't know. And I just saw, right. So I took her number down and I just went up the stairs. And I woke him, it's about 4 o'clock in the morning. It was about 5 o'clock then. And because I just sort of thought I need to get my stuff together here, just to get my head thinking straight. And I just went and I said, who the hell is whatever her name was on the phone? I don't even think that was her real name. I just went apeshit. And I just went, you know what? I want you gone. You need to get over. You need to tell your mummy what you done. Here's me. I told her. I knew that things weren't right. I just knew. I smelled a rat and whatever. And I wasn't taking it. I got what I wanted. I've got my 2 girls. My kids made me happy. I got what I wanted. Obviously, it wasn't enough for him. So I said, you go for and you tell your mum before I do. Do you know what he did? He went and he rang your woman, met her, Hillsborough, Crawfordsburn, I don't know where it was, met up with her and apologised for me ringing. And I went, you what? Because I rang him and I says, where are you? Have you been to see your mum yet? No. I says, where are you? He said where he was. And he told me what he did. And I says, you what? Never mind me. Like, I'm your wife. I've got your child. And I'm expecting your second child. I says, I think you need to go for and tell your mummy before I do. Couldn't even tell you if it was him that got to her before I did. But when it all came out, he was back in his mummy's anyway. So I was on my own for 2 months. And I was frightened. I was frightened of being on my own. And my sister, she lived actually next door. So she did, it was good. So, but my family just doted on my girl, my Aoife. And then with Neve, the second wee one, they were the happiest wee babies. They were brilliant. But when I had Neve, he had 2 weeks off paternity. So I said to him, well, you're off for 2 weeks. You can come and you can stay in the house and you can get up and feed, because you didn't do it with Aoife Marie. Because I was expressing for her. She had when she was born, she had no reflux. So I had to express it. So I was the one that was expressing, and I was feeding her and doing everything. So when I had Neve, I went, okay, you've got 2 weeks off. You can come here. You can stay here. Well, 2 weeks came, went, he wouldn't leave. He slept in my bed. He wouldn't move into the spare room that had a single bed in it. He wouldn't move into. I asked him, he wouldn't. He mentally played with up there. It was horrible. He just done anything he could to try and worm. He did worm his way back in. But as I say, it wasn't working. I knew I had my 2 girls, that was it. But my friend had a caravan and we went for a break. Neve was in the cot, or not the cot, she was in the car seat. Aoife Marie was in a buggy. Went down to caravan, try and spend a wee bit of time together, try, make things work, whatever. No. Got a phone call. I'm down outside the Marine. His mum came down. How the hell could you work things out with his mum, sir? She would have done anything to just... It was like having a third. There was somebody else in the relationship. That's what it was. He couldn't do no wrong. My son wouldn't do that. She knew what her son was like. But there's too many skeletons. If you opened a wardrobe, the skeletons just fall out of it. Too many lies, deceit. Do you know, there's lies, deceit. I never met any, it was horrible. Just the lies, constant lies and whatever. So we came back from the caravan and whatever and went back to home, living. His mummy I would have had Sunday dinner every Sunday for his mummy. She had 2 sons, useless. One was...
What age is your husband at this point?
Well, he was always, whatever age. I was 33 when we got married. He would have been 2 years older than me. So he would have been about 39.
This all sounds very immature in a sense of her there and talking about her son and going to tell the mummy, and I just tell her to fuck off.
I just didn't. Look, I would have. She had 2 sons. She didn't have a daughter.
You obviously had a close relationship at a point with her.
Oh, she was good. She was good to us. I can't say anything. She was good to us. She helped us out when we were getting the house and whatever, but that was because of her son. That was because of her son. And because I was pregnant with his daughter, because I found out what I was having because she was due at Christmas. I wanted to find out, what it was, what I could be organised and whatever.
So you came back from the caravan. His mum arrived up, and what happened then when you come back?
Well, I just knew it was nothing. Just fall into the same routine, kids, whatever. When he came home from work, I would have went, "There's a baby." He wanted to sit and read his paper. I went, "Nah, you want your dinner? You hold the child. I've had her all day." We had a lovely wee house. He was well looked after. I looked after him his dinners. I looked after him as a wife. I looked after our kids. The house was spotless. You couldn't have done any more. You couldn't have done any more. There was no need for him to go straying like that. But I just think if it's in you, it's in you. And if you got away with it for so long, do you know what I mean? If you got away with it for so long, he's going to continue. It's just have your cake and eat it. Well, he wanted it. So he got away with it. I was stupid. I was naive. I obviously hadn't had that much experience in relationships. I'd gone out with you guys, but it was nothing serious, But it was, I just knew it wasn't working. And I asked him to leave, and he wouldn't leave. He wouldn't leave.
What would he say when you said, "Look, this isn't working, I want you to leave"?
No, he was paying the mortgage. This was his house. They're his kids. He didn't think about his kids. He didn't think about his kids when he was out doing what he was doing. His kids didn't come into his mind at all. And I always said to him, "See, if you don't want me, you let me know. Don't ever, ever do the dirty of me." Because that was like my worst nightmare. That was my worst nightmare. And he done it. He done it over and over and over again. It was very shifty. It was all the mobile. He was in work. He was using work's internet and whatever. Before I found out about your woman, I went to an investigator. I went through the yellow pages one time. And I went to hire a private investigator. It was £25 an hour to follow him. I tell you what, see if they would have followed him, they would have had a field day. But I just sort of thought...
It cost you about £12.50 to catch him out because the man was out of flat out.
Well, it's £25.50 an hour. So
but they caught him in the first 20 minutes.
Here. Wouldn't have cost me that much. I just had this thing in my head that it was going to cost me a fortune. And just say they come up with nothing. Maybe it was my paranoia kicking in, that's what I thought. But I just sort of thought it wasn't working. And eventually I got him. I just wasn't working. One night he came in and he was drunk and I just went, "You have to go." And I got him angry. And he lifted his hands. So I rang the police. And he was out for the count when the police came. But I just said, "Just leave him there, he's drunk." But next day I just went, "Time to go." And I said, "If you don't, I'm going to tell my family about what you've been at and whatever." So he took a bag. Everything else he left in the house. Everything. It was suits, it was shirts, it was ties for work, it was shoes, everything. It's a tape collection that he had for years and years and years, a tape collection. That's really going back. But he came once a week to take the kids. And he took them over to his mum's. The kids were absolutely immaculate. And him and his mummy would have took them over to Lisburn Road to the park. People went, look, aren't them too beautiful? Because there was only 23 months between the two of them. So Eve Marie was 23 months when Eve was born. So, but they used to look at them, aren't they beautiful? And aren't they? As if he done that. He done nothing. Then because he was paying the mortgage for the house, every day, every Sunday when he was coming over to pick the kids up, he sort of thought he can walk on into the house. But he was playing with my head, walking in, and I couldn't say no because he was paying the mortgage. So he wanted me. He asked me about the house because he knew we weren't going to make it. So he asked me about banning him out of the house or selling the house. I just said, sell it. Don't want it. Don't want it. So the house went really, really quickly. So it did. But me and the girls ended up moving into a hostel for 14 months to get a house. But because they were two girls and the same sex, I was only entitled to a 2-bedroom house, and it was very hard to get a 2-bedroom house right beside my mummy because I needed the family support from my mum and my sister and the rest of them. But it ended up that I was in a hostel. I worked. There was people that were in the hostel because their kids were neglected. They had problems, drink, smoke, whatever. I didn't have none of that. But I had to live under the same rules as everybody else. Your flat got spot checks for drink. You weren't allowed to drink. And all that. So when we moved in about 2 weeks before Christmas. The house sold, I think, the 10th of December. And we had our Christmas tree up in the house. And then I had to take it down and put it up in the hostel. But I brought stuff with me out of the house that would make it more homely and familiar with them for them. So it wasn't a big shock and whatever. But you know what? They had their own wee room. They had I brought their duvets. I didn't use the hostel's duvets. I brought their own. So it was nice and warm and comfortable, and it was more like home. Because they were, I think, Neve was about 2, Eve Marie was about 4. And they were just wee dotes. They were gorgeous. But we moved into this hostel, and I did my best to make things. It was hard. It was hard. It really, really was, because your family weren't allowed in from 11 o'clock. Your guests had to be away at 9 o'clock. My sister worked in the place. I fed her and the staff, because if I was making for myself, but she worked there. She'd come up for food and whatever, and then I would send some down for the other staff. They never give me any hassle, because I never gave any hassle. And I didn't allow anybody into my flat because I just didn't want any hassle. I wanted to do the time and get a house out of there. So 14 months and I got a house. A beautiful, beautiful rebuilt house. It was lovely. But it was only around the corner from Mummy. But when I first moved into the hostel, I was very angry. And my flat apartment was up the stairs, about 2 stories up. So whenever Daddy Wonderful, I call him Daddy Wonderful, whenever he came to pick up the girls, I had to bring them down to the reception, give them, and then he had to bring them back, pick them up at 6 o'clock, bring them back at 8. But I couldn't do that. I was so angry. I was so I just angry. Simple as that. So I had to get my mummy and my sister to come round from their homes. She wasn't working, my sister. She would have come round from her house and come up to me in the flat and bring the kids down to meet him. I couldn't do it. But so this went on for months upon months. My kids, like my oldest wee girl, she was on the ball. Like, she says to me, Mummy, why do you not talk to Daddy? And I just said, I will talk to him, because we were away on holidays in August, and that's how bad it was. I wouldn't meet or greet him and whatever. My family had to come round every week to get it. On Thursday evenings he took them on Sunday. So my family had to come down, as I say, and meet and greet. Well, we went away on holidays for 2 weeks in August. And my wee girl, as I say, turned around and says to me, Mummy, why do you not talk to Daddy? And I just said, and it just broke me. And I just sort of thought, you know what, when we come back from holidays, I'm going to speak to him. Because I think I got a wee bit of power back. A bit of control back. If you know what I mean. I was letting him still have control of my life by not going down and meeting a great. And I went, no, that's not, I don't want my kids picking up with things like that. And I said, when we go back from holidays, I will meet and greet. I'll bring you down to meet your daddy and whatever. And I said to my sister Liz, I says, that's not happening to my kids. I don't want my kids being affected by this. And I did that. And it was the best thing I ever did for my girls. But when my girls were wee babies, or they were toddlers and they were in a bath. And I knew about his daughter. I knew she existed. I didn't know nothing about her, nothing. But I planted a wee seed. Do you know you say something to your kids when they're small and you think, they'll not remember this. But I always said to him, you have a big sister. And you probably meet her whenever she's older, because when it all came out about her, I didn't want my kids, this wee girl, calling to the door and getting a shock of their life that they have a big sister when I never told them. So I sort of thought, if I plant a seed whenever they're younger, then if she ever calls to the door, I did offer him to go and see a solicitor to see about getting to see his daughter. He did nothing about it. He did nothing about it. Didn't care. Then, when we moved into our house, and we were there for 7 years, when we got our house after the hostel, and we were there for years. And then I met somebody else, and he was older and wiser, about 9 years older. But he knew everything about my ex-husband, and I told him about everything he'd done and whatever. Couldn't look at it. It's a disgrace, all this here. Couldn't look at him. Next thing, me and him is sitting in the house one night. I fell asleep, had a few drinks. I wasn't a big drinker. Fell asleep. He was texting his landlord's girlfriend. Sexing. I went, why am I, I seem to be like a fly. They attached to me. All these ones, I always thought I was in control, positive, independent. But when you let somebody in, they just drain the life out of you. You tell them everything about what you've went through, and they just do the exact same. They just do the exact same as what he did. But he used to come back and forth to pick up his kids. But that was okay. And I talked to him and whatever, kept in contact with him. But I just decided, you know what, I couldn't be annoyed with relationships. I just attract them, and just sort of thought, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm just putting all into my kids, my 2 girls, because I didn't want them to. Also, I didn't want them, when you're brought up in something, sometimes you follow in the same footsteps. You pick up somebody, like what you think it's normal, when it's not. I wanted my kids, they were worth so much more and whatever. But they used to say to me, Mummy, why are you and Daddy not together? And I just said to him, in a childlike way, when you're married or when you're going out with somebody, you're supposed to go out with that one person. Well, your daddy didn't just go out with that one person. He went out with other people. He was kissing other women. That's what I told my kids. But as they got older, they started like now, and they have seen things. When he was coming and picking them up from the house, he was in a new relationship with somebody. It wasn't the girl he was texting the time that I was with him. He was with another girl, and his behaviour, the things that my daughters were saying. I don't want to say too much because I'm not allowed. But he was doing things, and I had to see, I'm getting all confused. But do you see, when we moved into the house and whatever, and when I decided, when I split up with your man, that was the older, the wiser, and he caught him texting his landlord's girlfriend. We had a caravan down in Ballycastle, and when me and him split, it was a bit messy. So I went down with my friend down to the caravan, and I took everything out of the caravan that belonged to me and my daughters, and anything that was personal out of the caravan, I took out. So when he went down to the caravan, he thought, he's going to lord it up and whatever. I took him a TV that was out of my house. I took the kettle, took the toaster. It was out of my house. It wasn't bought. He bought the caravan. I took out a loan for 2,000 quid for to decorate the caravan. So because I had done that, he squealed down the phone to me. So I just sort of thought, why is this happening to me over and over again? So as I say, I just decided, me and the girls, that's it, just me and them. So I said to the girls, where were you happy? And they said to me, Ballycastle. I says, right, we're going to move there. We're going to move there. So I got the money eventually off him for the money that I put into the caravan. I took a loan out. So I had all the receipts of everything. He was very angry. So I didn't know what the hell was going to happen. I had a small claims court form filled in, ready to go. He was getting retirement or early redundancy money. I can't remember which one it was. So I just sort of thought, I want the money. He had the key to my house. He went to my house when I wasn't there. He got his stuff. There wasn't nothing done to his stuff. All bagged, everything found a way. Sometimes women go mad and rip the clothes and do whatever. No, have your stuff, whatever. He turned around and I wrote a letter. I've got all the receipts for all this stuff. I want my money, whatever. So the money he gave me back, I paid off the loan at 75 quid out of it. It was 2,075 quid, which is what I spent in it. So he gave me the money eventually. I put the money into my bank, cleared my loan. I had money that I had saved over Christmas for whenever we started going back to the caravan. I'd put money away for new decking. No, it wasn't decking. It was for new mattress. It was a new cooker. The cooker was crap. And for table and chairs for out in the decking and a gas barbecue. Saved about £2,000. So I just sort of thought, I'm going to put that into me. I learned how to drive. It took me 3 months to pass my theory. And it took me 2 months after that pass my driving first time. So I just sort of thought, right, we're ready. We're ready to go, because I knew I had a goal. I knew that where my girls were happy, where they wanted to be. And I went down to see a house in May. It fell through. But I ended up doing a 3-way swap. They started secondary school, brand new uniform, everything. And secondary school, even Eve was first year, and Eve was P6. November, we moved down to Ballycastle. Fresh start, everything. The house we have, the neighbours we have. Amazing. Amazing. But my family thought, I didn't know, not the ex-husband, the ex-partner, he had moved down there.
The ex-husband or the ex-partner?
No, the ex-partner, not the ex-husband. The fella that I was going out with for about 2 years, the older guy, he had moved down there. He had moved down there. Was going out with somebody else and whatever. But how we split up is my daughter was getting, my eldest daughter, Eva, was getting bullied. And she was very rude to me, and he was sticking up for me. But he called her a poison dwarf and told her she'll not be down in the caravan again. And over his dad's grave, she will not, she says, you get out of this house, you have nothing to say in this house. You have no rights in this house. He says, I may not have no right in this house. He says, but I have right in the caravan. He says, and you'll not be in it. I swear my dad's grave, you're nothing but a poison dwarf. Walked out of the house. And I just went, you know what? So he expected me to go down with my other daughter, play happy families, and leave the other one up in Belfast. And I went, nah, it's not happening. So as I say, I went down and got my stuff out of the caravan. I was getting pulled. But for somebody that put your man down for what he did, and then he ended up doing the exact same, well, sex texting. I don't know how far it got or how far it went, but he was, I'm waking up, having a few drinks, woke up, he's that busy on his phone, and I'm going to sit here and see how long this goes on for. And I could stay and see in the corner, and he was that indulged on his phone. And when I sort of wake, and I just sort of went, I'm going to get myself another drink. Would you like one? No, I'm going to bed. I'm knackered. I looked on his phone. Should never have looked on his phone. Should have never have needed to, but he was that engrossed on his phone. I couldn't believe when I went on his phone. And his landlord's girlfriend was texting him, and it wasn't nice. It was a way that another woman shouldn't be texting him. I was his girlfriend. He shouldn't be doing that. I wouldn't sit on the phone and text some other guy while he's sitting there having a snooze. And then he went apeshit, and that's why we broke up. Because I caught him texting his landlord's girlfriend.
So it wasn't the row with the daughter? It was...
That just added on to it.
Okay. Look, often we find that people recreate history, and it's very hard to break a generational loop. There's no doubt in my mind you're a fantastic mum, and your daughters have always, and everything you've done has come first. Some things that slightly worry me, and I'm going to be honest with you, you know, I'm not by any means vindicating anyone's behaviour, but, you know, telling your daughters things like that there, that when they're young, about having another sister and your daddy cheated and all, you know, it's each their own. I'm not sure where I would be on that. I have questions about that, but, you know, I do believe that, you know, paramount to you was your love and care for your daughters, but, and, you know, till you know, when someone's talking like that, or these things have happened, and it'd be easy for people to judge and say, you know, you were gullible and you allowed these things to continue to go on. You could, there were obvious signs. There were very obvious. Someone taking them. There are not just red flags. There are grenades going off, and it's easy enough to judge. Nobody knows anybody's position. So I'm not going till I know for me, and I know for a lot of people who are standing there and the behaviours and things they see in people, they would be like straight away, look, this is fucking, But sometimes from where you grow up, you maybe become, when you're trying to be honest, and you're trying to be the best person you can. Sometimes people take advantage of that, and maybe you become easy picking for guys that are like that because you're gullible to believe some of those things. And I don't want to call you, but it is, some of it is, and I have to be honest, we always call both sides of the coin. I'm not saying, I'm not going to comment on how he was as a father. We don't know. The most of the times we hear, so a massive red flag for me will always be, and I'll always say this, and it was another podcast, if you find out that your partner is a child and they have nothing to do with their life and that's from their decision, that's a red flag by any means. Because who could switch off knowing that somewhere out there there's somebody belonging to you, and that'll tell you more about a person than a lot of things. There's a lot of things there, it's your point of view, it's your story. He may have a different story, he may have seen the marriage going differently and different things, but this is the thing about the podcast, and we always get pulled on this, that we're only given one side of a view. But look, listen, I want to thank you for coming up and telling us, because I have no doubt that people live in relationships where there's double lives all the time. And lies and manipulation and things like this. But I would say to people that your gut's never wrong. Your gut is your subconscious. When your heart's trying to tell your head something else, your gut's the one that's saying you're wrong, you're full of shit, there's something going on here.
But there is a good thing out of this.
What is the good thing?
Before we moved to Ballycastle, 6 months before we moved to Ballycastle, my sister, who lived up the west of the city, her wee boy went to the same school as his other daughter. And I contacted him and I says, can you help me? Because I had no idea what his daughter looked like. I didn't know what you called her daughter either. My son did, or my nephew did. And it was the youngest one, the wee girl, said to me, Mummy, remember you told me about my sister? And I says, yes, love. Can we meet her? And I says, okay, here's me, but I'll have to, arrange this. I don't know nothing about the wee girl, nothing. So my nephew went and helped me get in contact with her, and I sent her a message through Facebook, and I actually told her who I was, and I told her, you have 2 sisters, and they would love to meet you. I also told her, I says, go and speak to your mummy.
What age was she when you had this conversation?
I think she was about 18.
Okay.
So she's been part of my kids' lives for nearly 8 years. 8 years, yeah. So they met 6 months before we moved to Ballycastle, and they have such a good relationship. Any family occasions, they are there with their big sister, and they also has a niece and nephew as well.
That, to me, there is some question to the morality around, who should have contacted who and what. But the fact that the sisters have got together and created a bond, to me, is, does the ends always justify it? Maybe. In that case, I would say, that's fantastic. And that is, maybe that shouldn't have been you or someone else. Maybe that should have been someone else step up there, but didn't. So, as I say, look, there is a question sometimes in that, but them girls have got their sister now and they have a relationship, and that's fantastic. And
we all get on. Her granny and granda, they all come down for my daughter's confirmation in Ballycastle, and her sister was there, her mummy was there, the granny and granda was there. Her family was all down with her because they're now part of our family. They're part of our family. And they've welcomed my kids into their lives. And we've welcomed their sister into our lives. And I just, something good has to come out of something.
Well, look, listen, you have two beautiful daughters. I had the pleasure of meeting one before we come in here. I know you have a very close relationship with them. So, I would always say this: we can't change the path we walk down, and you wouldn't change it.
No.
But sometimes this is the way it is. But there's some. I'm going to be honest with you, Sharon. There is some in and around some of all the scenarios that have happened there. There's some questions that I have, but I met her. She's a lovely girl. They're happy. They've met their sister. You've now moved on. You're in Ballycastle. You love your life up there.
Love it.
So, I'm glad for you. And I really am glad for you. And I hope at some point you meet somebody that's not texting or sitting on a computer jiggling more than a mouse or whatever it is they might be at. But I want to thank you for coming up, and I want to wish you the very best in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sharon.